Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for yet another edition of Adam Interviews, where we are bringing in folks who are making a giant impact on our community. And such is the case with our guest today, with Christine Callanan, the Wayne County District Attorney. Christine, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so we're going to start this interview with some history here. I have been informed that your family, it is the family profession, the law, and apparently it goes back generations with you. You were saying your grandfather actually started. How did that happen?
So my great-grandfather, my grandfather's father, went to law school at Georgetown. He graduated from there, came back into Rochester, and started his own civil practice. So we're a long line of litigators, actually, in the courtroom. Then my grandfather, after he graduated from law school, joined the firm, but then proceeded to run for judge and was a Rochester City Court judge here. My mother then also joined the family practice, but her focus has been family law, so divorce, custody. She still practices today in Monroe County, and then I was the next generation to come through.
Oh, great-grandfather. That's incredible. So does this mean that it's constant debate in the household? How does that work when you are in a family of lawyers?
Of course, it breeds argument and dissent, but I think the nice thing is when we have professionals in it, we also know when it's time to quit and turn it off a little bit.
That's true. Yeah, you can separate the two. And did you know from the jump that this is what you wanted to do?
Yes. I always said I was going to be a prosecutor. There was a brief time that I thought I was going to go professional in basketball, but that didn't pan out. So I ended up going to St. Lawrence University for undergraduate. From there, I did a semester in D.C. for a pre-law program, and it solidified it for me. I came back, went to the University of Buffalo, did a criminal concentration there because I knew I was going to be in the courtroom and wanted to be a prosecutor, and was lucky enough, passed the bar on the first go, and Mike Green, who was the district attorney at the time here in Monroe County, hired me.
Did you play basketball for Aquinas?
I did play basketball.
Oh, very nice, very nice. Not an easy team to beat. So it's funny, I was just talking with someone about the power of the SUNY system and how incredible it is, not just around here with Brockport and Geneseo, but UB Law. I can't tell you how many people I come across in high positions who have graduated from there. And I'm sorry, unless you really have an affinity for Penn State or you get into Harvard, I don't know why you wouldn't choose UB, to be honest with you.
The amount of money law school or higher education can cost, if you can go to a SUNY school and get that quality of an education and be returned into an alumni circle here within Rochester, Buffalo, Syracuse, really Western New York that embraces it, and you can see judges, district attorneys in those positions, it really is, it's unmatched.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree. And when you were in Monroe County, I didn't fully realize this. Those of us who were around, we covered the U of R kidnapping, and I found out that you were a prosecutor on that case. Why don't we first review that case? Because it was extraordinary in its detail, and then the brutality of it, and then the prosecution of it. So if you wouldn't mind, maybe 30 seconds, kind of review what happened and your role in it.
So the facts of the case was that two U of R football players had gone out one night believing that they were meeting up with two females. They met them and drove to a house on Harvest Street in the city. And when they were there, they were ambushed, kidnapped at that point at gunpoint, one of them sustaining multiple gunshot injuries, and they were held through the weekend. The individuals who kidnapped them were taking their credit cards, getting money out of ATMs, calling for higher credit increases, and basically we're waiting for Monday to try and get a large payout for the two of them. But thankfully, the Rochester Police Department and their SWAT team were able to save the boys on Sunday night.
But the injuries were just...
Absolutely gruesome, yes. Yeah. I mean, if they hadn't gotten there in time to get them medical intervention, the severity of the long-lastingness of the injuries or ultimately death would have occurred.
You had lobbied Perry Duckles to be part of Major Crimes. You desperately wanted to. You said, I'll work harder than anybody. When you get there and you have to deal not just with the facts of the case, but the victims in the case as well, did that make you question it? Was that particularly difficult for you to handle?
Never. No. That was the reason I was there, in my opinion. I was lucky enough to second chair that case with Matthew Schwartz, who at the time was in charge of the Special Investigation Bureau. So we actually even made a trip out to Chicago because both of the victims, although they were here at the U of R, were from the Chicago area. We met with them to get them ready and prepped because shortly after the indictments were handed down, they returned home, because being in Rochester wasn't where they felt safe anymore, and we couldn't blame them for that. But in these types of cases with these victims, I pride myself on the fact that like I am the one you want there, and I can hear you, I can listen to you, but I can still put on that professional face and be in front of a jury and relay that without the emotional side coming in, because they need that advocate in court who's not going to be weak or break because of the sad circumstances of a case.
Do you naturally have the ability to compartmentalize things, and then you go home and it's, Christine Callanan, the former Aquinas basketball player, laughing with the family? How do you make that work?
That is a skill that I think every prosecutor needs to have. I mean, I would be lying if I said nothing ever spilt over, or if there aren't long days that turn into, sadder nights or tougher times. But the ability to give yourself kind of a 24-hour rule, you end up with a not guilty from a jury on a case. You have to have a tough meeting with a family about an investigation that may not be going the way you want. You give yourself 24 hours, you can feel it, but as a professional, it's required of us to be able to move on. Was
it hard for you to move on from Monroe County to head over to Wayne County? So why don't we first talk about how that happened and how that transition felt for you?
Mike Calarco won district attorney, and when he did, there had been multiple homicides in Wayne County where he was looking for a violent felony prosecutor with experience with homicides. He and I met, and it seemed like the right fit for me at the time. Slow down the pace a little. I mean, there's unfortunately an overwhelming amount of violent crime in Monroe County, and specifically the city. So the chance to be able to focus more on these high-level cases without being inundated was something that I looked forward to. But of course, it was difficult to leave. I learned a lot, and I am who I am today because of my time in Monroe County and the opportunities I was given there. Lifelong friendships that I've had since then, and still to today. So it was difficult. The relationships with law enforcement, all of those things, you're starting over from zero after over 7 years in a place is tough, but I don't regret that decision at all.
Yeah, look, and then you become acting district attorney. And forgive me for not remembering here. How did that happen?
So Mike Calarco retired in December of 2024. So then we're in 25 now. So no, 2023.
Don't ask a journalist to do math. Like this isn't going to go well.
What the years were. So when he retired, because I was his first assistant, I became acting district attorney January 1st of 2024, which then required me to run the same year to actually earn the office. So I ran that first year, and then I became district attorney January 1st of this year.
Does it mean anything to you, or what does it mean to you to be the first female district attorney in Wayne County?
It's an incredible honor. I think it shows that sometimes people might think of Wayne County as a 315 rural country kind of backwoods area, but it's not. It's a place that values people, it values experience, and it values strength. And I think that was abundantly clear in the fact that I was able to be elected and nominated, and I had the full support of the county to do so. So I'm incredibly proud. I think it's a credit to my mother who raised me, and I became an attorney because I saw that it was a job of service. It was to help people and serve people, and I couldn't find a better way to do it than to be a prosecutor and then continue on showing the strength that my mother raised me to have.
We had the former Ontario County District Attorney in that seat, Jim Ritz, about 2 months ago, and he said something interesting to me. He goes, when I'm prosecuting, everyone always thinks I'm just there for the victim, but the fact is I'm serving the defendant as well. I'm a servant to all. Do you see it that way as well?
Absolutely. It's very easy to see prosecutors as people that just want to send people to jail, but that's not what we are there for. We're there for justice. We're there for fairness. So in a lot of cases, you meet with victims who think the only right thing is jail or the maximum sentence of jail, and you have to have the tough conversations with them that if there's an underlying mental health issue or substance abuse issue, that we give people the opportunity to try and not have to see them again in the criminal justice system, to allow them the chance to be rehabilitated versus just incarcerated. And that, I think, any good prosecutor knows and takes that responsibility very seriously.
There was a defense attorney who online was offering an anecdote where he had a defendant that he thought was not guilty, not just not guilty, innocent. And he came to you and said, I need you to look at the video. You were a prosecutor on the case at the time. You said, come to my office the next day or day after, whatever, having looked at it, and you said, I agree.
Yes.
And what went into that decision, and is that kind of part of your overall mentality?
With that case specifically, the defense attorney reached out, and in Monroe County, the level of violent crime and the amount of which we have to move, that case was ready to go into grand jury and proceed to indictment. And he was like, can we just slow down, because I think we'll have evidence that will change your mind. I said, okay, let's slow down as long as you agree that your clients stay in, so I can ensure that I'm still keeping the community safe until we get to that ultimate decision. He made that concession, so I made the concession of not proceeding immediately with indictment. And we met, and it was abundantly clear that it wasn't his client based on the evidence he was able to present me, cell phone records, other witnesses that put him in a completely different jurisdiction than where the crime occurred. So based on that, the next day we walked into court and I withdrew and dismissed the charges. And we still proceeded with prosecution. And every time I went to court on the new indictment with the people that committed the crime, I had to address the fact that we made the wrong arrest initially, but that's a responsibility that you have to take seriously if you want to really be a prosecutor.
If you make that 180, do you sometimes or risk the possibility of getting pushback from the law enforcement agencies that initially brought the case to you?
In that case, I didn't. I know that there can be sometimes, but the Rochester Police Department that handled that investigation, once we reviewed the evidence, it became abundantly clear it wasn't the individual we initially arrested. So they were supportive of that decision and basically were right back on it and trying to remedy it and actually find the person that committed that crime.
Do you, in the back of your mind, is that one of the greatest nightmares, is to have a wrongfully convicted person?
Absolutely. That is the scariest thing to think of when you're proceeding as a prosecutor. We take it so seriously that there is nothing worse than putting someone in jail or in prison or in any position that is actually innocent of a crime. That is not what our job is. That's not our responsibility. And at the end of the day, even when we disagree with juries potentially on verdicts and things like that, sometimes it's a not guilty, and that's what we have to proceed with if we didn't meet our burden.
So I interviewed Brian Green, the new district attorney in Monroe County. It seems like there's just Greens over and over in our legal system.
Unrelated to Mike, though.
I know. But he brought up something interesting, because we were talking about discovery law, some of the social justice reforms. Some of that was based off of defense attorneys saying that there were some district attorneys in town that were playing games, giving them discovery too late, or it made it very difficult for them to make a case, hence what we saw in the state. Some of the reforms promotes early release of discovery. Your thoughts on that? Has that made things more difficult for you in your office, or do you agree with the changes?
Monroe County, the policy was always an open file discovery. So when I came in under Mike Green, we turned everything over. So there was no real gamesmanship. He took being a prosecutor very seriously and said, like, good, bad, or indifferent, everything, you turn it over. It's not a question. So I was raised that way. So when I went to Wayne County, I brought that with me. And the only issue that I have with the discovery reforms was that it tied it to a different section in the CPL of 3030 and our time to be able to prosecute things. So there had been a lot of dismissals coming out because one piece of paper was missing, or a body-worn camera from someone standing down the road holding a perimeter wasn't disclosed. Nothing very material to the case, but under the new rules, because it was mandatory and was missing, cases could be dismissed, which I don't think was ever the intention of these discovery reforms. It was fairness. Get the defendant everything they need to know to be able to make the choices to create a defense, to talk to witnesses, to do their job in defending their client. I have absolutely no problem with that. It's just dismissals on technicalities, which really created issues for me.
And I'm sorry that I don't know this. Have those been tweaked? And if not, should they be?
They were recently. The governor in the last budget agreed to amend some of them, clearly not all the way that the prosecutors wanted and the DA's Association was advocating for, but there were some substantive changes that tried to unentangle those two things. They're not completely separate, but I think it's going forward with the concerns that we had, right? Victims' rights, where is their voice in this too, to make sure that if we do miss something, that there are remedies short of dismissal.
Sandra Droley became your boss after Mike Green. We saw, everyone, including those across the country, saw the video. that eventually led to her resignation. What was your thought when you saw that?
It was unfortunate. That's not Sandra Dorley, who I know, and I think she's clearly articulated over and over again how sorry she was for that, and that that's not who she was ever in a courtroom or as a prosecutor. And unfortunately, that bad day changed a lot of things for her and the way people see her, which is truly unfortunate.
And then her resignation, your response to that when you saw her step aside before her term was up?
I think it was the right choice for the office, and I think that value in what prosecutors need to do and need the office to stand for is beyond one person being the district attorney, right? That the prosecutors in any county need to be able to stand up and do what's right, and I think she realized that her leaving was the best for the office, so she put the office first.
You're from Irondequoit, and now a case there is kind of bringing you back. We have that incredibly horrific murder of a family, and you have been named the prosecutor in the case because Brian Green is from Irondequoit. He was the justice before he took the job. Where does that leave? That is such a huge case. Your office, while very efficient from what I can tell, is it going to be able to take it on? And just your reaction to having pick up such probably the most prominent criminal case in our area right now, outside of the Nordquist case?
When the request came in, of course, the first thought in my mind is about my office because Wayne County is my priority. But I'm also still a prosecutor, and when you see a case like this and know you are capable and really needed to handle it, I couldn't say no to that. We are lucky enough that my Board of Supervisors is incredibly supportive in Wayne County, and we've added additional prosecutors prior to myself taking this case. So the office in of itself is in a really good position to handle things when I have to be away from it with great experienced prosecutors. And I know that I'm the one that needs to handle this case. I feel confident in being able to take it on, to review the evidence. I'm familiar with the law enforcement agencies that have dealt with it, as well as the defense attorneys who are assigned to it, the judge. So it really is something that, although it's incredibly serious, I understand that, and I feel more than confident that I'll be able to handle it.
Are you going to be the lead prosecutor on that?
Absolutely, yes.
So, I mean, it's a huge job. So you added something to your plate. You have a family. Like, how do you balance everything?
I'm incredibly lucky. My husband is the biggest cheerleader I have, and he supports me in everything. And he also knows how much I love this job. This isn't a casual thing for me. This is a lifelong career and something I'm truly passionate about. And he knows, and he said it when I told him that the case was coming in and I was accepting it. He was like, there was no one else that could do that. And so I always have his support. You know, when the trial is probably going on for 3 weeks, he may feel a little differently about it, but he allows me that ability to be 100% laser focused on what I need to get done, and he takes care of the rest of it while I'm in court.
That's impressive. You're very lucky, and I think they always say behind a strong person is a strong partner. Often is the case, I find, and is the case for me too. I'd be eating peanut butter and bread every day if it weren't for my incredible wife. And it's not just because she cooks, which she does, but she's actually I already know she's going to watch this and say, people are going to think I just work in the kitchen. That's not the case.
Don't get yourself in trouble.
Yeah,
with
she
that.
is the director of food-based healthcare for Foodlink. She has an incredibly big job, especially with the SNAP stuff happening. So anyway, that's me saving myself right there. Thank you for allowing that. So I've noticed, I don't know if there's any relation, but there's someone on national news I see every once in a while who looks a lot like you.
Yes.
Different last name.
Erin McGuire.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Erin McGuire. Any relation that?
That is my younger sister. She was on Gutfeld last night. So yes, my kind of twin. Yes.
You're kind of twin. So GOP communicator. How did she kind of venture into that, and like how is that for you being in what? Yes, you know you had to run on a political party line, but every single district attorney I ever talked to says this is not a political job. How is that for you, kind of having what many consider a nonpartisan job and having a sibling in such a partisan role? Is that weird for you at all?
No, she's incredible. She always mentions the bills in every capacity that she can, so I always appreciate that she remembers where she came from. But she's a rock star. She comes to events in Wayne County, and it's great because everyone loves to see her. But she can talk about up and down the ticket in Wisconsin, Nevada. Her knowledge is so vast, and she truly is an expert, and that's the thing I find so cool to watch because she's been gone and in D.C. for over 10 years now, and it's just absolutely crushing it. But yeah, as a DA, do we have to run for office? Yes. But is it political if you're doing it the right way? No. I don't care what political party any of my prosecutors are involved in. I just want people that are going to show up and do the right thing and work hard for Wayne County.
Because apparently this interview, I'm just going to bounce back and forth from serious to not serious. When we first met, it was the Clyde Savannah incident where a student was allegedly assaulted by fellow students in the locker room. You were the prosecutor on the case at the time, and you reminded me, I thought that all the charges had been dismissed, but a few minutes ago you reminded me that not all. But what was that like to have the judge dismiss most of the charges after all that work?
It's disappointing. Clearly, we proceed with an indictment and presentment to a grand jury because we believe we have sufficient evidence to proceed. So even though I disagreed with the decision moving forward because there were charges left, my office made the choice to proceed with the charges that remained. There was a victim here it was a child who was in school, and they deserved the ability to try and return to normalcy without having to continue with the case. So it was unfortunate, but a necessary thing to do is to move forward with the charges that were left.
Yeah, that is something that I've come to learn having covered so many court cases. There are the facts, and then there are the victim's emotions, well-being, situation, circumstances that have to be taken into account.
There's so many more sides to it than I think people are used to seeing on like Law and Order, SVU, all of those criminal shows. They think the prosecutor, again, is a one-minded thing, but we have so many things that go into every case that we have to take into consideration and weigh out, and usually we're not going to be able to make everyone happy.
Yeah, so I'm obviously, because I'm part of the press, but also for another reason, I'm a huge advocate of cameras in the court. Yes, it can be taken, some sound bites can be taken out. I understand the concerns, they can be taken out of context, but I encourage everybody, you can go and sit in on a trial. You don't have to be called for jury duty or anything like that. It's the people's court. I highly encourage you to do that if you do have some spare time. I know that some of these trials can last weeks, but the one thing that I took away from that, having started, is, and this goes for political arguments, family arguments, things are so much more complicated than they often appear. And I found myself, even in the most high-profile murder cases, going back and forth depending on whether the defense attorney was talking or the prosecutor was talking, because there are little facts. And that's why we have a jury sit in throughout all of it. And so I almost find it funny when people watch some of these celebrity trials go forward and they're like, oh, this person's guilty, that's person. Like, if you're not in the courtroom, I think it's almost impossible for someone to make a determination. And that goes for a lot of the issues. Like, unless you're in the weeds with people, I think it's very hard to make a determination. I don't know your thoughts on that.
Absolutely. Every trial that I've done, you end up one day feeling great about the way evidence went in, and then the next day second guessing everything you've done, because you are sitting there looking at 12 people who kind of couldn't get out of jury duty, who are listening and trying to pay attention, and you're hoping that your arguments are resonating, that they are paying attention to the things that you find of value and ignoring things you don't. But you never know. There's never a guarantee in life anyways, but let alone with a jury who the judge is going to tell them law they've never heard after listening to evidence for a week. And you're hoping you can put it together for them and help them see from your side, but you always have somebody on the other side making an argument too. So every day is important. Every piece of evidence is important. You never know what people are going to focus on. So in a lot of meetings when you have victims who are like, but we said he did it, you have to bring them back to those greater calculations of putting it in front of a jury, what's potentially missing, what people are looking for. And it's really difficult conversations to have with people. I like to say that there's common sense, and then there are things that happen in a courtroom.
No, and then you have to match the charge, right? Because even take the stuff that's happened at in Utica at the state prison there with the local gentleman, Robert Brooks, who was murdered. Some people were let off, and I got the impression that they might have thought there was wrongdoing, but it didn't match the charge. I might be off on that, but it's a very complicated dance that prosecutors have to work through.
And that's why we leave the ultimate decision up to those juries. I know DA Fitzpatrick made incredible arguments. I saw some of the clips from his closing, and like you said, you watch that part and you're like, how could they not come back guilty? But I mean, they took time, I believe almost 3 days worth of deliberations to review the evidence, and they came back with that split verdict. And so you may have been able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt for one defendant, but not the rest. And that
Right.
burden is a substantial burden beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and potentially maybe not the charge that was on there, but there might not have been a lesser charge
Provided to them.
provided
yes.
to them, so they didn't go down to that. Again, my ping pong continues. What's next for Christine Callanan? Obviously, you're in this seat for a little bit longer. Do you have higher aspirations?
No, I'm a prosecutor.
Okay.
I am so grateful and thankful for Wayne County, where I am, the people I get to work with every day. I have no intention of being anywhere but Wayne County.
All right. Now, you could theoretically live in Wayne County and be Attorney General, too. So I don't know if there's
Absolutely not.
No?
No.
Okay. Did you have to, I'm guessing you had to move out to Wayne County to take the job eventually?
Yes, residency is required for the district attorney.
Yeah. How's that going? You eating a lot of apples?
Absolutely. We love apples. Apple season. We just moving through it. We're on to, I forget what the new one is, but Tangos was the last season of it, which were amazing. And we do have an abundance of them. But yes, very fortunate to get to move out there.
Yeah. There's some type of program now. It might have been around for years, and I just found out about it, where you get like a punch card and you go to the different apple farms that are part of it. And I thought, when I retire, I know things are going to be easy in my life when I get one of those punch cards. I think it's digital now, and you go, I would love to do that one day.
And you get to enjoy it. Yes, we have basically at every event you get to go to for Wayne County. If you're not walking away with a bushel of apples, you've done something wrong.
Yeah, there's no question. It's interesting, speaking of apples, obviously immigration is a huge issue out there. I've interviewed Barry Virts about that before he retired, and now I've talked with Sheriff Milby about it. Is that something that, because it's federal, it might not be in your purview, but is that something that's kind of on your radar? Is that something that you kind of have to deal with because migrant labor is just so huge in Wayne County?
My biggest issue with that is getting victims or defendants into court. ICE and what their mandate is and what federal law is, I want them to enforce it and follow it. That is not my jurisdiction. But what is my jurisdiction, I do take seriously. So if I have victims who are scared to come to the courthouse or come to my office to meet after they've been a victim of a crime, that is highly concerning to me, and something that I want to ensure that if someone commits a crime in Wayne County, that I can prosecute it and not have to worry about being able to locate victims or witnesses or have them be reluctant to participate because they are scared of repercussions if they show up to locations to meet with law enforcement, myself, or the courtroom. Other than that, I want the federal government to do exactly what they deem necessary and follow the law, as long as I can still prosecute the cases that need to be prosecuted in Wayne County.
So I'm reading that as basically stay in your lane. If your actions interfere with my prosecution, that could be a detriment to the county.
I think it's a direct detriment to the county. We want people to feel comfortable and confident that when they report a crime, seeing it or being a victim of it, that the Wayne County law enforcement, as well as the Wayne County DA's office, is going to take it seriously and prosecute it here. So there are rules that, ICE agents can't be in courthouses and things like that. And that's what I ask, that, they respect and follow the law the same way that we have to. And I just want to be able to provide some type of safety for everyone in my community, which includes those immigrants that are there, and they deserve it.
All right, we covered a lot of ground. Thank you for doing that little jig with me. So with that, any last messages, any last thoughts before we head out?
No, thank you so much for having me. I truly appreciate it.
All right, Christine Callanan, we appreciate you coming in, making the drive in from Wayne County, and jealous that you get to go out there and enjoy the beauty that is Lyons and the surrounding area. So thank you again. Appreciate it. All right, talking with us was Christine Callanan, the Wayne County District Attorney. Very appreciative for her perspective and going back in time with some of those cases and still pulling up the detail that she did. Thank you for watching this edition of Adam Interviews. We will continue to bring in folks doing extraordinary things in our community, and we hope that you continue to join us. Please tell your friends and family about the Rochester First app. All right, take care, everyone.
Get the Rochester First streaming app today for everything you love from News 8 On Demand, plus exclusive shows you won't see anywhere else. Search ROC and download for free on Roku, Amazon Fire, and Apple TV.